What does it mean to have a career anymore? Not a job, a career. You know, the arc, the investment, the story of a person growing inside an institution that grows with them. Now, today you'll ask workers across America right now that same question about career, and you'll get a long pause, followed by a laugh that sounds more like a sigh. CFOs at America's largest companies used the word efficiency on 307 earnings calls recently. That's up from 219 a year ago. Workers have a different word for what that means. They call it a funeral. Welcome to That's Life, I swear. This podcast is about life's happenings in this world that conjure up such words as intriguing, frightening, life-changing, inspiring, and more. I'm Rick Barron, your host. That said, here's the rest of this story. Now, there's a particular kind of culture happening that lands at exactly the right moment. Not because it breaks news, but because it names something millions of people have been quietly living. The loss of small perks and rise of AI have conspired to strip work of all fun. It feels like a funeral in the office right now. Now, that is not hyperbole. However, the bigger question is, what is the definition of the word career now? It is, for a large and growing number of the American workforce, simply a description of today. We find ourselves in a moment when corporate America is in the middle of what may be the most psychologically disorienting labor transformation in a generation. Understanding what and why it matters requires examining three interlocking threads. 1. The slow erosion of workplace humanity through the removal of small perks. 2. The existential shadow cast by AI over every professional sense of purpose. And 3. The corporate language of efficiency has become the euphemism of our era for something far more destabilizing. Now, recently, Dell Computer, or Dell as it is today, is charging its employees for Office Espresso coffee that was once free. The happening is a symbol of something much bigger, a slow, cumulative stripping away of small human pleasures in the name of efficiency. This matters more than it might initially seem. You see, workplace perks, free coffee, casual Fridays, birthday lunches, the annual holiday party was never primarily financial benefits. No, their economic value to any individual employee was negligible. Their psychological value was something else entirely. They were signals. They said, "We see you as a human being, not merely a unit of production. We are investing in your experience here, not just your output." Now, when those signals are removed, the message received is the inverse. And while no single perk removal is catastrophic, it's the cumulative effect of many such removals happening at the same time across thousands of companies over a compressed period of time creates what organizational psychologists would recognize as a withdrawal of psychological safety. The implicit contrast between employer and employee, already strained by years of remote work, return to office mandates, and wage stagnation, is now being renegotiated in plainly transactional terms. Now, workers are beginning to take notice. The result, according to workers across industries, is that office life has become something to endure rather than something to enjoy or invest in. Now, the irony is profound. At the very moment companies are demanding employees return to physical offices to restore culture, they are at the same time eliminating the small rituals and gestures that made that culture feel worth inhabiting. They are tearing down the house while demanding that people move back in. Now, a very striking point from research firm AlphaSense revealed that CFOs at large U.S. companies mentioned efficiency at least once on 307 conference calls in the most recent quarter. Now, that's up from 219 a year earlier, and the highest level tracked since at least 2020. Now, this is not a trivial linguistic shift. Corporate earning calls are carefully scripted documents. Every word on them is deliberate. When efficiency becomes the most fashionable word in the executive vocabulary, it signals a philosophical orientation toward the workforce. And that orientation is one of reduction, not investment. Efficiency. I like that word. It covers all manner of sin, doesn't it? In the context of these calls, it is almost never about making work better for the people doing it. It is about doing more with fewer people, or the same with less cost. It is, to put it plainly, the boardroom's polite word for layoffs, benefit cuts, right-sizing, love that one, reduction in workforce, or RIF, and headcount freezes. I mean, pick your own euphemism, if you will. Now, funny, many companies went hog wild during the COVID-19 crisis. That was their strategy, the smart minds of management. The employees followed upper management's strategies. And when things failed, those who paid the price in the name of efficiency were those down below. Yet the smart minds of upper management got to stay, get another chance to take another stab at the whiteboard. But I digress. Over 61,000 employees have already been impacted by AI-driven layoffs in 2026, and at least 45 CEOs have announced layoffs citing efficiencies made by AI. The layoffs have spread far beyond tech, touching financial services, logistics, consulting, media, retail, and manufacturing. But there is a legitimate debate about how much of this is truly driven by AI versus how much is using AI as a cover for decisions that would have been made anyway. Investor Mark Andreessen called AI the silver bullet excuse for cutting workforces, arguing that essentially every large company is overstaffed, most by at least 25% and some by as much as 75%, and that the current wave of layoffs reflects widespread overstaffing during the pandemic, not genuine AI displacement. Even OpenAI CEO Sam Altman acknowledged that there's some AI washing where people are blaming AI for layoffs that they would otherwise do. Now, this distinction matters enormously to workers. There is a difference between losing your job because a machine genuinely does it better and losing your job because your employer overhired in 2021 and is now recalibrating, but blaming a robot to soften the public relations optics. Now, the former is disorienting but comprehensible. The latter is a form of institutional dishonesty that corrodes trust in a way that may take decades to repair. Now, beyond layoffs and perhaps more corrosive, the psychological pressure on workers who haven't been laid off to constantly prove they cannot be replaced. Employees face more pressure to prove value in the age of AI, contributing to an environment that feels transactional and less human, more output focus and less meaning focus. Now, this is a new kind of workplace anxiety, and it does not have a clean name. Well, let me take a stab at the name. How about the value-proof economy or performance survival mode? No, I took a stab at it. Now, it is not the old fear of being fired for poor performance. It is more existential dread of being rendered redundant by a technology whose capabilities are expanding faster than any individual can adapt. It is a feeling of running on a treadmill that accelerates every quarter. Now, not so long ago, working in tech meant job security, extravagant perks, and bring your whole self to the office culture, rare in other industries. Tech was once the sector that served as a model of the aspirational workplace. Its collapse into being very ordinary or worse signals something important. There is no longer an industry that workers can point to as evidence that work can be both well compensated and humane. So the real question that deserves more serious treatment than it typically receives in mainstream business journalism: what does the word career mean anymore? For most of the 20th century, a career implies something more than a sequence of jobs. It implied a narrative arc, a story of growth and ascending responsibility, and accumulating security. The employer played a role in that story. You gave loyalty, effort, and time. The company gave you advancement, stability, and eventually a pension that reflected your decades of contribution. Now, around the middle of the last century, Many hummed along the rosy glow of plum benefits, robust job security, and the knowledge that the chief executive was making about 20 times a worker's pay instead of 200. Today, the employee-employer pact can feel like a relic of a bygone era. Workers have swapped pensions and equity in their companies for more meager benefits that put the risk and onus on individuals. By 2026, the very architecture of a career had been disassembled. Changing jobs used to be a reliable path to higher compensation. Now, in many industries, it can result in a job offer being withdrawn if the candidate negotiates too aggressively. In 2017, 24% of respondents to a Pew survey said their job or occupation was very important to their identity. By 2021, it was 17%. The retreat from work as identity is not laziness or disengagement for its own sake. It's a rational, psychological defense mechanism. If the institution will not invest in you, investing your identity in the institution is a formula for repeated grief. Workers, especially younger ones, appear to be learning this lesson, consciously or not. What is well captured is that none of these forces in isolation will be sufficient to produce the funeral atmosphere that workers describe. Remove the free coffee, and workers shrug. Add a return to the office mandate that eliminates their commute-free mornings. Add AI-driven anxiety about job performance. Add the knowledge that CFOs are using the word efficiency at record rates. Add watching colleagues be laid off and then, in some documented cases, rehired at lower salaries without raises or stock grants. Add back-to-back video calls that have replaced the spontaneous human interactions that made office life meaningful. Layer these on top of each other, and you produce something that is greater than the sum of its parts. A pervasive sense that the workplace no longer sees workers as ends in themselves, but purely as a means to quarterly results. A Wall Street Journal poll found that nearly 70% of people said they believe the American dream that if you work hard, you will get ahead, no longer holds true or never did. That's the highest level in nearly 15 years of surveys. When the foundational promise of work that effort is rewarded collapses, work itself loses its motivational architecture. People still show up, but they show up differently. Now, the loss of joy at work is not a trivial problem. If you are spending the majority of your waking hours somewhere that is draining you, that is not a minor inconvenience. It is a quality of life issue that shows up in your health, your relationships, and your presence at home. The relentless pursuit of efficiency is treated largely as a market phenomenon, a rational corporate response to competitive pressures, rather than as the product of specific choices by specific human beings about how to allocate the gains of a remarkably productive economy. The CEOs and CFOs who are most enthusiastic about the word efficiency are in many cases presiding over companies generating record profits. Now, the American workplace is at its core a story about broken agreements. Work was never meant to be purely transactional, and workers, despite decades of corporate messaging designed to lower their expectations, appear to know it. They have not stopped wanting to work to be meaningful, to be human, to be worthy of their best hours. They have simply stopped believing that it will be. The funeral atmosphere workers describe is not a mood. It is a verdict. Now, whether American corporations choose to take that verdict seriously or double down on efficiency while the culture quietly collapses around them, will define the character of the workplace for the next decade. Now, at the time of this recording, I saw an article in the paper that software giant Oracle announced a massive layoff of 30,000 people as AI spending ramps up. And they were told via email. That seems to be the norm now. Cutting the 30,000 employees could lead to about $8 billion to $10 billion in incremental free cash flow. Now, at the same time of that announcement of people being laid off, Oracle hired a new CFO who will receive an annual base salary of $950,000 and will be eligible for a performance-based bonus with a target of $2.5 million. Plus, they will receive an equity grant with an intended value of $26 million. I guess they'll be able to afford their own espresso coffee machine. What was that word again? Ah, yes, efficiency. Now, what can we learn from this story? What's the takeaway? For workers, the core lesson is that waiting for the institution to restore meaning is a losing strategy. When companies strip away the small gestures of humanity, the rational response isn't to grieve the old workplace forever. It's to locate meaning and identity outside your job title. The workers who seem to be navigating this era best are the ones who stop letting their employer define their sense of worth. That's not cynicism. It's psychological self-preservation. Well, there you go, my friends. That's life, I swear. For further information regarding the material covered in this episode, I invite you to visit my website, which can be found on Apple Podcasts for show notes and the episode transcript. As always, I thank you for the privilege of you listening and your interest. Be sure to subscribe here or wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. And we'll see you soon.